Spanish Heart here, and welcome to my unboxing and review of the quarter-scale Jean Grey Phoenix statue from XM Studios. It's been quite a long odyssey since it first went up for pre-order last Halloween. It was so popular that it actually crashed the server of a certain e-tailer. There was a lot of anger, disappointment, and man tears shed that night. But fortunately, I was one of the lucky ones that managed to snag one after pounding the crap out of my F5 key. So after an eventful year, full of delays, approvals, changes, and belly aching, I'm happy to say that she's finally here. So let's crack her open out of her cardboard cocoon and see if she lives up to all the hype, shall we? So as we open the top flap, we find the registration form that you can use to register your statue on the XM Studio site. Next, we have the diagram of the statue all packed up, which is really helpful if you're moving or selling the statue. And finally, we have the beautiful art print done by Stanley Artgerm-Lau. And Stanley has done other prints for Sideshow as well. And I think he actually helped design the statue. So lifting up the outer box, which is made out of a high density cardboard, which is really durable and provides you excellent protection. We get the two straps, which fastens the outer casing so the statue won't get jostled around during shipping. And lifting up the tray, we get the Phoenix pieces. First off is the main body with the head and the long tail. Again, it's long, it's fragile, and I'm just really impressed by the translucent resin that they used. And after that is the support piece, which pegs into the main body and is basically the base of the Phoenix. After that is one wing, and again, just be very, very careful when lifting it out and unpacking it, because the feathers are really fragile and thin and it can break off easy. So just be very careful. Again, that's the other wing. Next up are the little pieces that go on the base of the Phoenix. So that's the little fire piece, and there's a bigger piece, and they both are situated close to Jean Grey's foot and are attachable by magnets. So after that is a limited edition coin, which came with roughly half of the edition size, and the Phoenix edition size was $999, and I got $919. So lifting up the tray, we find the Sentinel base, and just be really careful when unwrapping it as well. It's just really, really heavy. I mean, I was just really shocked and impressed at how heavy and how solid it was. And yeah, just whatever you do, don't drop it. The last thing you want is a heartache. And underneath it is the registration code, which I recommend doing. Just register your product on the XM site. After that is the main body of Jean Grey, which was digitally sculpted by Adam Ross, and I have to say he did a fantastic job with it. The sculpt is just amazing. I mean, she looks toned, she looks beautiful. It was just an amazing job by Adam. And the paint apps are immaculate. I mean, there's no shoddy line work, and the paint lines are all clean. Just beautiful. Next up is one of the arms of the Phoenix. Again, just be very careful when unwrapping it, because the fingers are really fragile, and the last thing you want to do is break any of them off. And this is the other arm, and again they attach via magnets to the main torso. And after that is the sash, which you can peg into the main torso of the Jean Grey body. And after that is the Super Saiyan 3 head, which I like to call it. And I'll talk more about the heads later on. This is the Eric Sosa art germ inspired head with the long hair. And finally we have the pre-order head, which I guess is a topic of much debate during the pre-order phase. So with all that, we'll put it all together. So here are the 3 head sculpts that come with the XM Studios Phoenix. The first head I'm going to look at is the Super CN3 head, and it has the white pupils, the glossy lips. The hair is really heavy, it has striations to it to give it a certain amount of depth and texture. That looks really good. I mean, it's really accurate to how the Phoenix used her powers, as far as her having the white pupils and the wild hair. And yeah, personally, I would have liked it if the head was a bit more centered and up, like how she was in the comics and in the cartoons. But with the way the Phoenix bird is situated in the statue, I can understand why they went this way, so it won't cover the bird. Again, this is a really solid sculpt. I'm really happy with it. The lowered hairline is there, and it might be a big problem for some collectors, but for me, I can understand why they lowered it. Had they put it up more, it would have probably made the statue unbalanced, with the weight of it kind of pushing back or going back. So imagine this heavy head with the head going backwards, going onto the body and then situated on that one peg. It might have been a disaster. So yeah, it's a solid head sculpt. The next head I'm going to look at is the Eric Sosa sculpted art germ influenced head. Basically, this is based on the art print that comes with the statue. The hair has striations with it as well, and I love the feathered look. It's kind of like reminiscent of the Heather Locklear and Farrah Fawcett style that was prevalent in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was basically around the same time the Phoenix was introduced in the comics on October 1976 in Uncanny X-Men 101. Again, here's the makeup. She looks really pretty with the eyeshadow, mascara, the glossy lips, and there's some blush on the side. It kind of gives her more of a shoujo look where she looks young. Yeah, she has a bit of a young aesthetic to it, and a lot of collectors aren't really thrilled with this look, and it's a big complaint about XM as a whole with their female head sculpts. They look too Asian influenced, and again, these products are basically marketed to the Asian market, so there's an aesthetics issue there as well. And as collectors, we're basically used to Sideshow with their realistic proportions, right? So I can understand why. But basically, this Phoenix and the Black Widow are first generation sculpts or products, and with the later sculpts like Medusa and Miss Marvel, they're kind of more geared towards realism. So a lot of collectors are happy about that. But again, this is a really pretty sculpt. Probably not one that I display all the time, maybe once in a while, but it's nice to have, and it's a nice kind of like a tribute to Stanley Archer Lau, who designed the statue and the art print. And finally, we go to the head that was shown during the pre-order phase. And yeah, this is my favorite of the 3 heads. As you can see, the hair is more of a richer color of red with some shading. There aren't any of the grooves as shown as in the other heads. As far as paint apps go, they're immaculately done as well. As you can see, the makeup is perfectly applied, and there isn't any googly eyes or wonky line work. Yeah, it's really well applied. It's a really solid head, and I have to say, yeah, I mean, they did a fair job with it. But I will say it's not perfect. I mean, it could be miles better though. My gripe is with expression. I mean, when I look at this face, I don't really see Jean Grey. I mean, it doesn't really capture her character or have her essence distilled in this sculpt. When I'm comparing this to, say, the Sideshow Catwoman done by Mark Newman, both are based on designs by Artgerm, and when you're comparing them side by side, I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, Sideshow Catwoman wins. I mean, you can see by her sculpt, by her expression, it just captures her as a character. You know, there's a certain kind of playfulness and mischievousness in her sculpt, and Mark did a fantastic job with that. Yeah, I mean, you can see he captured her ethnicity in a way. I mean, you can see the curves of her cheekbones and her luscious lips and her playfulness in her eyes. It just captures her. When you look at this, you think of Catwoman like right away. Comparing that with the Jean Grey sculpt, I mean, the expression isn't there, and that's my big gripe with it. Yeah, it should have her like show her either her stoicness or her fieriness as far as, you know, protecting her friends or you know, or capture this certain conflict within her versus trying to control her powers. It just doesn't capture Jean Grey, I find, and that's one of my big gripes with XM as far as capturing expression. It's a solid head sculpt, but it could have been miles better. I mean, had they released the head sculpt on par with, say, the Will Harbottle Red Sonja sculpt, I mean, it would have been all she wrote. It would have been the perfect statue. But yeah, I mean, there are other options. There are customs coming out. Troy McDevitt is sculpting a fantastic piece, which I jumped on. And other collectors have commissioned other heads for Phoenix. So if you're not completely satisfied with any of the three heads, then that's an option to consider. So first off, here's the base of the Phoenix, and it's basically a destroyed torso of a Sentinel, and it goes in line with the bases for Wolverine and Magneto, where Wolverine has the severed head and Magneto has the arm or the hand as a throne. Here you can see the details as far as the melted metal, the kind of cracks in the armor, and the bubbling in one of the panels. There's also wiring on the sides. I'd have to say it isn't as impressive as, say, the light up Wolverine head, but then again, you don't want the base stealing the attention from Jean Grey or the Phoenix. Next up is the bird. We're setting up the base of the Phoenix. So basically, we take this one, which is the back support, with the peg, and it slots into this large piece with the metal rod. You just have to be really careful when slotting this together. And be careful with this piece. It looks really fragile. So basically what you want to do is just hold this together while you fit it onto the base. So this this metal peg goes here onto the base, and this magnetic one goes here. So sliding this down, It's just a matter of aligning it. Finding the right angle to allow it to slide in. So next up, we set up the wings. So the wing goes into the side of the main body of the Phoenix via a peg system and a magnet. So taking the wing, basically you have to angle it in a certain way in order to fit the peg in the magnet. So just gently guide it in and find the right angle. And it should easily slot into place, like so. So doing the same to the other side, you just slide the peg and fit the magnet. So basically just guide it in and find the right angle, and just carefully slide it into place. Like so. Again, I recommend finding a spot to put your Phoenix, because I find that taking out the wings and putting it back is just a real bitch. So here we have the Phoenix all assembled. So here we have the assembled Phoenix Force, and looking at it up close, it's an impressive piece in its own right. You can see the sculpted details in the transparent resin. Originally this was supposed to be painted up when they showed it off during their pre-order stage, but I think XM intended it to eventually be transparent resin, and once the change was made, there were a few collectors up in arms as far as worrying about the loss of details and worrying about how it wouldn't pop as compared to the painted up bird. But looking at it up close, I have to say those fears shouldn't worry about that. I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful and majestic up close. Everything from the feathers to the body, the head, it's just really nice details in there. And once you have this lit up, whether from behind or from the sides, it absolutely pops. I mean, this is just an amazing piece. And I think XM went with the right decision as far as going transparent resin. So now we're going to fit the body of Jean Grey onto the seminal base. And basically this metal peg is going to go to this hole right here. So it's just a matter of fitting it and guiding it in the proper angle. And if you do it correctly, it should touch the seminal base and fit into the groove, and there shouldn't be any gap there. So next we put the little pieces onto the base here, and they're both magnetized. Starting with the little piece, you just have to be really careful because the magnet tends to pull it really strongly, like that. And then the big piece basically goes here. So basically you want to do this after you've put the Jean Grey body, just to prevent from scraping up the leg. Next up is the sash, which attaches via a peg. So basically you just want to attach this peg into this square hole. Basically just guide it in and find the right angle, and it should easily slide into place. So now we put the finishing touches on the Phoenix. So we start with her right hand, her right arm, and it should just slot in via a magnet. Then her left, And then I'm going to use my favorite of the three heads, the pre-order head, and be really careful. Basically just slides in like that. So there we have the XM Phoenix complete and looking absolutely dazzling. What a babe. So now that she's all complete, I have to say that the XM Phoenix is one of the most impressive statues that I've ever seen up close. The body is made out of cold cast porcelain. There's quite a heft to it, and it is all solid sculpt. Adam Ross did a phenomenal job with Jean Grey's digital sculpt. Jean looks beautiful. She's toned, lean, and elegant with nice muscle definition, especially in her stomach, her back, and her tight backside. The pose is powerful and dynamic, with Jean looking to unleash the awesome power of the Phoenix Force as she takes flight. The paint apps are immaculate. There are no visible signs of sloppy paint lines or blemishes. XM Studios' QC is top-notch, which isn't a surprise and is something that we've come to expect. They added some modern touches to the classic Phoenix costume, with visible seam lines on the side, a bigger, more prominent crest on the chest, as well as some sculpted wrinkles. The mixture of the dark matte green with the glossy gold is a great combination and makes Jean the centerpiece of any X-Men collection. So overall, I'd say that the quarter scale Jean Grey Phoenix from XM Studios is a home run. The pose is unique and dynamic. The sculpts of the body and of the Phoenix Force are impressive in their design and construction. You can tell as you are putting the statue together that it is of high quality just by the weight and finish of the individual pieces. The portraits themselves are well sculpted and painted with stellar QC. However, the heads aren't quite up to the same mind-blowing standard the rest of the statue exhibits. In my opinion, the simple paint apps don't quite bring out the full potential of the details of the portraits. The original pre-order head lacks the realism and facial expression that the talented in-house sculptors from Sideshow managed to accomplish with their interpretation of Artgerm's Gotham City Sirens. It's just a case of what could have been. Yet despite that, to me, this statue is a clear love letter to the much beloved X-Men character that I followed growing up. XM did her character justice with this magnificent piece. For that, I commend them in getting her out to collectors in spite of almost being shelved indefinitely due to licensing issues, numerous delays, and redesigns due to structural problems and overzealous fan input. It's been a long journey full of anticipation, disappointment, paranoia, and worry just to get a chance at owning this piece. But having her in hand, I can say that it finally feels great to own one of my favorite characters from my favorite storyline displayed in all her glory. No doubt XM set the bar really high. Sideshow did solicit fan input on statue form, so that might be an indication of a Phoenix or Dark Phoenix premium format figure on the horizon. Whether collectors wish to wait for that or pay the current market price of about 2 Gs depends on your love of the character. I was lucky enough to pick her up at cost, and I do think the price will go up once more collectors have her in hand. I will say that XM have set the bar impossibly high, but that will only help Sideshow strive to be that much better, so it's a big plus for all collectors. Having said that, I hope you guys enjoyed my unboxing and review. This is Spanish Heart signing off. Thanks for watching.